Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here today. My name is Denise. I'm also known as heywigsister on Instagram and Facebook. Today I'm here to talk with you about heat-friendly synthetics. I'm going to show you how I care for my straight heat-friendly synthetics. I'm going to demystify the whole heat-friendly wig topic a little bit, talk with you about my learnings, and give you some ideas if on your wig wearing journey you're really struggling to find the styles that fit best for you. So if you want to know more about this and watch me as I care for the one on my head a little bit, which has some frizzy ends starting to happen, then stick around and we'll go through all of this together. Start this video off with just a little bit of a disclaimer. First of all, everybody has different approaches to the wig wearing journey, different preferences, different likes, different dislikes, and not every technique, approach, product is going to be for everybody. As I've been on my wig wearing journey, as I've been making videos, as I've been watching other people's videos, as I've been looking at comments, a real common theme is there are going to be some people who love something and some people who really don't like something. Some people who will say, hey, I did the same thing and it worked for me. Someone else who maybe criticizes the idea or technique being presented and thinks a different way is better. There are definitely cases where there is a wrong way to do things without question. But in a lot of cases, especially with the wig wearing journey, I'm not so sure that some of these are right or wrong. It is personal preference, personal ability, personal skill level, and there's always pros and cons to everything that we do, and there's always trade-offs. So in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the trade-offs about heat-friendly wigs and some of the trade-offs about the pros and cons, or maybe the trade-offs of the techniques that I'm going to demonstrate for you. It's not going to be for everyone, and you may have a different way of doing things. Again, I think we've all got to sort of respect and honor. We're all coming at this from a different place, from a different perspective, from a different financial status, ability, all of that. So that's my disclaimer, my first disclaimer. My second disclaimer is I am not a stylist. I am not trained in this. I'm in no way, shape, or form an expert. These are the things that I've learned through my own personal experience and my own research. I have spent hours and hours and hours researching how to care for heat-friendly wigs. I have spent hundreds of hours at this point probably wearing heat-friendly wigs and learning how to care for my own. So this is based on a little bit of experience and a lot of research, but I have only been wearing heat-friendly wigs for maybe the last 2 years off and on, a lot the past year, but relatively speaking, I don't have a long-term experience with heat-friendly wigs. So I am still learning too. I'm still experimenting, and I'm always discovering new things. So I'm going to show you some things today that I think will help you if you're struggling on your wig wearing journey, or if you have some heat-friendly wigs and you're not sure how to care for them. But I really encourage you to watch lots and lots of videos, do some additional research, and practice and experiment. And you'll find your own way in the things that work best for you. And it may or may not be some of the things I show you here today. So I wanted to get that out of the way because I think sometimes we forget that not everybody is coming at this from the same place. And there is often more than one right way of doing things when it comes to wig wearing. So let's define our terms before we go any further. The first thing I want to talk about is what are heat-friendly fibers and how are they referred to? Heat-friendly fibers have many different names. You will find them called heat-friendly. You will find them called heat-defiant. You will find them called HD. You might see them called heat resistant, and then some of the wig manufacturers have come up with their own names and terminology for heat friendly. So Raquel Welch calls heat friendly wigs true to life fibers. So if you see a Raquel Welch wig and it says it's in their true to life fiber, that is a heat friendly wig. And then Paula Young calls them Versa fibers. So just keep that in mind as you're on this wig wearing journey, that not everything is called the same thing by everybody. So heat friendly, heat defiant, HD, VersaFiber, we're talking about the same thing if any of those terms are being used. So let's just make sure we're clear on that. Some of the complaints I see about heat friendly fibers are that they are hard to care for. And I think that's all relative. What's hard for one person may not be hard for another person. The truth is, heat-friendly fibers do take a little bit more effort to maintain than regular synthetic. But they don't take more effort to maintain than human hair. So it's really all relative. And so it really depends on what you're willing, the trade-off you're willing to make on your wig wearing journey. When I first started wearing wigs, I wasn't willing to do any extra care and maintenance on my wigs. It was all so new to me, and I had so little styling experience. I really wanted the easiest thing possible. And at that time for me, regular synthetic wigs were the easiest thing. So if you're brand new to the wig wearing journey and you are overwhelmed by this, heat friendly may not be the place for you to start, because they do take some extra TLC care, attention, and some tools that you'll need to be able to maintain the fibers to the best of their to their fullest, I guess I should say. So that is a common complaint, and you know, there is some validity to it, but I wouldn't necessarily say they're hard to care for. They're just different to care for and require a little bit more effort than regular synthetic. Another complaint is that they don't last as long as regular synthetic, and absolutely that is true. From all the research I've done, from all the people I've talked to, and not necessarily from my own experience, because I don't really wear wigs out because I wear so many different varieties. It is sort of the one drawback to what I do with videos and trying all kinds of different things is it's going to be hard for me to bring you guys longevity updates because I can't possibly wear that many wigs. I mean, you only have so many hours in a day, but I've done a ton of research on this and talked to a lot of people and paid attention. And I've come to the conclusion that it is true that heat-friendly wigs do not last as long as regular synthetic under completely equal conditions. Here's the thing, you guys, with wig wearing, there's so much variation between the brands, the fibers that are used, how people are wearing their wigs, where they're wearing their wigs, where they're storing their wigs, what you're using to care for your wigs, how you treat your wigs. All of that is going to impact the length of a wig. And I see this all the time. People will talk about, I can't stand heat-friendly wigs. They only last a week for me or 2 weeks for me. And then someone else will chime in and say, I don't understand that. I've had a heat-friendly wig that I've been wearing constantly for 6 months and it's still doing great. I think both are true. It just really depends on the person. So when you see comments like that and when you hear people talk about how long wigs last, please caveat that with the stuff that they're not saying and the things that you don't know, such as what they're doing to care for their wigs and how they're wearing and storing them, how long. Somebody may say, I've only worn my wig 5 times and it's already a hot mess, but they wore it for 12 hours every one of those 5 times. That's very different than somebody who wore a wig 5 times to run to the grocery store and home and then took it off. So you don't have that information. I will tell you from my experience with heat-friendly wigs and from what I've been able to gather, in general, heat-friendly will last 1 to 2 months less than a regular synthetic under normal and equal conditions. So keep that in mind as you're making your purchases. And again, everybody's preference on what is good is different as well. Now, I have on my head Raquel Welch. I think it's straight up with a twist. It could be real deal, but it's been modified regardless. It's been cut. And so it's one of those two. They're very close styles, and it's in the color Shaded Biscuit. And I have been wearing this constantly. For the past, I would say, year, I have worn this almost more than any other wig that I have worn consistently. And I've taken heat to this one already before, and it needs heat again. The ends are starting to get just a little bit kind of frizzy feeling and crispy, and you can see it's getting a little clumpy. I still wear this. I still love it. I still get constant compliments on it, but someone with a different experience with wigs or different expectation of wigs might think that this one is no good anymore because it isn't as soft and flowy as it was when I first got it. So please keep that in mind as well. If your expectation of synthetic wigs are that they're going to be as soft, as smooth, as flowy as they were the day you got them out of the box, you're going to find yourself pretty disappointed in this journey, and you're also going to be going through wigs like crazy. In addition, if you want your synthetic wigs to be exactly like human hair, again, you're really going to struggle with this wig wearing journey. So let's get our expectations straight as to what we can expect from wigs. I think wigs look awesome far longer than they feel awesome. Far, far longer. So just expect that out of your wigs. They're going to start to feel dry. They're going to start to maybe not be as flowy as they were when you first got them, but nobody's going to know that but you. And nobody's going to notice that. Until they get really, really ratty, nobody's going to notice that. And even then, it's just going to look like normal hair. I mean, how many people run around with third day bedhead, you know, that don't do a whole lot to their hair, that don't care for it very well, and it's frizzy and it's messy and it's, you know, a little maybe kinky or whatever it might be. That's normal hair. So your wig, when it looks bad to you, probably just looks normal to everybody else. But that's another common complaint. Another complaint is that even after taking heat to a heat-friendly wig, people feel like they can only wear it 1 or 2 more times and then they have to take heat to it again. Again, that's true in general. Depending on the length of your wig, depending on how you wear your wig and all of those other things I just mentioned, you may need to take heat to a heat-friendly wig every few wears, maybe even everywhere, depending on how long it is. If it's a very long wig, the nape is going to rub up on your clothes all the time. You may need to take heat to that nape every single time you wear it to keep it as smooth as possible. So while it's a complaint, I would say it's a true, maybe true issue. It isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of the nature of heat-friendly wigs. So go into it knowing these things, and maybe you won't have as many complaints about the actual product. Something to keep in mind, and I promise you guys I will get to the actual styling, but this is all important context. It isn't just about show me how to care for my wig. It's about teach me about my wig. And I do timestamp everything. So if some of this chatter is not news to you, go to the timestamps in the description below this video and you can skip ahead to any part that you want. Friction, that's the section that we're on right now. Friction is the enemy of heat-friendly wigs. It's kind of the enemy of wigs in general, but for sure heat-friendly wigs. They are of all the fiber types, they are the ones that are most detrimentally affected by friction. Friction is anything that rubs up against these fibers and it causes them like little micro tears and to fray. And so one of my number one tips, not just my number one tip, the number one tip you see out there if you do research on this topic is never brush your heat-friendly synthetic wig. And so I recommend, I'm going to grab it right here, a wide tooth comb on all synthetic wigs, but for sure heat-friendly. Any wide tooth comb will do as long as it's wide tooth like this. This one is a belle tresse. John Renault makes one that looks exactly like this. You can use a handled wide tooth comb, anything with wide teeth as opposed to like a regular comb like that. That's not wide tooth, something like this. That is going to give you the most success in caring for your wigs and provide the least wear and tear, pull, and friction on these fibers. Heat-friendly fibers are kind of a softer fiber than regular synthetic. They can frizz a lot easily. They can fray a lot more easily. They will stretch out a lot more easily. So you just want to be very gentle when you comb through them. And if there are tangles, you want to be even more gentle getting them out than you are with regular synthetic. They really are quite a bit more temperamental. And so friction is the enemy. Another thing to remind yourself about is that clothing is really hard on synthetic wigs. So if you are going to wear longer styles that rub on clothing, rub on your shoulders, rub on your neck, nape, on your back or whatever it might be, those wigs are going to need a lot more care and they're probably not going to last as long as a shorter wig like this, even with all that care. Go into it knowing that and make your decisions wisely. I will tell you guys, and this is in another, I'll put this in another video where I focus on this topic. Personally, I like human hair wigs if I want to wear a super long wig. Which is rare for me anyway, but it's just, I find that synthetic doesn't do as well if it's rubbing on your clothing all day long. Heat friendly, less so than regular, for sure. And go as long as possible between washes. Again, anything that puts extra friction on your wigs is going to mean you're going to need to take heat to it more often and just be more diligent in how you care for it. So please keep that in mind. Friction, any kind of friction, even running your hands through your heat-friendly wig is friction on it. So you just want to be gentle with the fibers as much as possible. Obviously live your life, but know this about the fiber and make your decision wisely. If you're unwilling to do this extra care and pay extra attention, then maybe heat-friendly isn't for you. And that's fine. There's no shame in that. And luckily you have other choices, but just be aware of these things. As for my preference, I just mentioned that if it's a long wig, I prefer human hair. In heat-friendly fibers at this time, as of the filming of this video, where I am in my wig journey and experience, I prefer, if I'm going to get a heat-friendly wig, that it's straight. I'm not a big fan of curly wigs at all. I actually wouldn't, I don't think, I wouldn't purchase a curly heat-friendly wig at this point. A wavy wig, only if it's very loose waves. If it's a tight wave bordering on a curl, I'm going to be really hesitant about that. I actually have Columbia by Belle Tress. It's still in its box. I do need to review it. I've wanted that one for so long, but I've been hesitant because I think I'm going to struggle caring for it and keeping the wave pattern intact. Whenever you take heat to a heat-friendly wig, you run the potential, the risk of straightening out those fibers and relaxing a curl or a wave pattern. There are some ways to do it that will minimize that risk, but it means putting a lot less heat on the wig, and it may not have the same impact in keeping those fibers like straight and frizz-free and closed. So just keep that in mind. I know Editor's Pick by Raquel Welch is a super popular wig. Belle Tress has some really great wavy styles. And the problem really is you do need to take heat to these wigs regularly, and the heat will impact that curl pattern. So at this time, I prefer straight heat-friendly wigs, and actually I prefer them over regular synthetic. So if I'm going to get a straight bob length wig, it's going to be heat-friendly for the most part, unless I find a regular synthetic that I cannot pass up. But all things being equal, I prefer heat-friendly in the straight kind of bob length and shorter styles. I just think they're more realistic. They look better. They have less shine. They look less like a synthetic. And I'm willing to manage the trade-off of having to take heat to those in order to have those styles that I really like. So just in case you were wondering, that's my preference. All right, let's get into how I treat my heat-friendly wigs so that they stay as nice as possible. First of all, products. I am not a fan of using a lot of products on wigs. I truly think that synthetic wigs do not benefit greatly from having a lot of product put on it. First of all, they don't absorb anything. It's like clothing. Anything you put on it is just sitting on the surface. So you may think that you're conditioning your wig or helping make it softer, and maybe temporarily you are doing that if you're putting a product on it that will smooth it out, but it's just coating the wig. So every time you put product on it, you're putting a thicker coating on that wig. It's going to cause you to need to wash it more often. It's not absorbing the product anyway, so I'd be really cautious about using very many products. And I will tell you, there are some products out there, very popular products, that I think are detrimental to wigs, and I won't use them. I think they just make them feel gummy and dirty a lot faster. So just be cautious. And if you're using products on your wig right now and you're unhappy with your wig, you don't think it's wearing very well, consider changing up your products or using less of them and see if that improves things for you. The one product I do wholeheartedly recommend is Simply Stylin'. This is a silicone spray, and this is a silicone kind of gel. They're both the same brand. They've just changed their packaging so it looks more like this now. This is old packaging. I think this stuff is wonderful on wigs. It's a pure silicone, and it's a little bit sort of greasy, so you want to use it very, very sparingly. But one of the great things is you can put it on your hands, and then you can put it in the ends of your wig, or you can spray it on the nape and run a wide tooth comb through it, and it can really help eliminate the frizz, soften it up just a little bit because it's coating it with that pure silicone. A little goes a long, long way. So it's not super cheap. It's almost $20 for a little bottle like this, but trust me, it lasts forever. I mean, I think I've had this bottle for a year and a half. You can see how much I have left. So it lasts a really long time. If you can only get one product, my preference is the spray versus this is the gel. It is just a little bit not a little bit, it's quite a bit thicker. It's a lot thicker. I have no idea if you can see that. But one great thing about this gel is, I don't have anywhere to wipe it, so I'll just wipe it on my hair. But one great thing about that gel is it's really good on curly wigs. So if you wear a lot of curly wigs, I like them both, but sometimes just putting a little bit of the gel on your fingers and kind of scrunching it into the curls can be really helpful to keeping those curls intact and looking less frizzy. So that's one real good benefit of the gel. I don't really think it's necessary to have if you wear mostly straight wigs. I really think that the spray will work better, but there is no product I recommend more than this one, honestly, for taming frizzy ends, for helping the nape, especially if it's really tangled up. So that can be really great. It does come scented. I think someone told me there's an unscented version, so you might want to look for that, but it does have a scent. It's a very pleasant scent, but if you're super scent sensitive, it's probably got too much of a scent for you and you wouldn't be able to use it. So please keep that in mind. But products, I'm not a huge fan of. What I am a huge fan of, and I'll grab it for the next segment, is a spray bottle of water. Basically, I use water for almost everything on my wigs to refresh the style, to refresh the curl. And when I use any heat tools on it, I tend to spray it with a little bit of water, get it just slightly damp. I think that makes a huge difference. It helps the heat to be a little gentler on the wig and makes you have to use a little bit less of the heat. So water is my go-to, and it's my default. So if you're struggling with your wig and it needs a refresh, I would start with water before I'd put anything else on it and see what happens. When it comes to heat protectant, I personally, if I'm just taking some basic kind of gentle heat to it to smooth the ends, if it's just my maintenance of my heat friendly wigs, I don't use heat protectant. I use water. That's my personal preference. I so far have not seen anything negative from that approach, but I don't wear my wigs every single day and I don't take heat to them a lot. So proceed with caution. I'm not the only one that says this though. I've seen a lot of people say the same. So I'm not basing this on only one person's experience. But if you're going to take a lot of heat to the wig, or if you're going to alter the style, maybe you're going to straighten a wavy wig, or you're going to try to put curl into a heat-friendly wig, then it's probably a good idea for you to use a heat protectant. There's a number of them out there. I just don't have enough experience with it to recommend any one product. So do your research and find one that will fit your needs and your budget. But I know that question comes up a lot. And for my just basic maintenance, I don't feel the need to use a heat protectant. Again, it's another thing coating your wig. If anything, you probably have a little bit of this on the fibers anyway, unless you just washed your wig, if you've been using it periodically on the ends. So there's already some stuff coating the ends, in my opinion. So it's not like it's just the heat and straight on the wig fibers. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's get to the tools. I've got a little note here because I want to cover these super important topics and keep us moving. So let's talk about tools. All right, I'm going to demonstrate a couple of products for you guys. And so what will work for you will depend on what you're trying to do. So the first product I'd like to talk about is my Hot Tools hot air brush. I really think this is a tool that every wig wearer should own, unless all you wear is exclusively curly wigs. The hot air brush isn't really great for those, but any sort of a straight or sort of wavy wig, or if you have bangs, a hot air brush can be used for so many different things. My preference is the Hot Tools. This is all plastic. I will link it in the description. They've got different size barrels. I think this is the biggest barrel. And I just recently purchased the smallest barrel for handling bangs. But the heat is gentle enough to use on regular synthetic as well. So this is a great tool and can help get rid of cold crimping or cold setting in a wig. Sometimes a wig will come out of the box with a funny crimp somewhere in the front that you can't seem to get rid of. This can do that, and I have a video showing you how to do that. So if that's a problem for you, let me know and I can hunt that down. Or maybe if you search Denise sheets crimp, you should be able to find it. But this is a great tool, but it isn't going to be perfect for every scenario. So if you're planning to care for your heat-friendly wigs from the very beginning by just taking heat to them every few wears, this is going to be a great tool for you. It's going to be really easy to use and gentle enough, I think, that you're not putting a ton of heat on your wig. Now, that said, the brush is going to cause friction on your wigs. So keep that in mind. It may not be perfect for you, and you may find that it's over time, it's not doing as well for your wigs as you would like. In that case, you could use a straightener if you'd like to use a straightener, and especially on the ends. Now, this is going to make your wig less straight. This is going to make it fairly stick straight on the ends. So if you don't want this sort of really kind of straight look, a hot air brush is going to be the better tool for you. But again, everything you do to your wig is putting some friction on it and shortening the life. Some are putting more friction on it than other things. So please keep that in mind. I personally like to use the hot air brush for just regular maintenance, but if I don't do the regular maintenance and I find that the wig is starting to get really frizzy, this is probably not going to be strong enough for that. The heat just isn't high enough. At the end of the day, if you have a wig that's in really rough shape, then I recommend you use a steamer. Steam is going to be kind of the top of the line defense against frizzy and frayed wigs. You can also use steam on regular synthetic. So if you have some regular synthetic wigs that the ends are getting really old and ratty, you could try using steam on those. But because of the nature of steam, it is going to straighten your wig. So if you use it on a curly or wavy wig, be really careful. You could take some gentle steam to some curls and just kind of do this, and you may be able to give a heat-friendly wig a bit of a refresh that way. I'm not sure how well that works. I find that if I'm going to take steam to a wig, and again, you're putting more friction on a wig using a brush. It is the only time I think you could ever safely use a brush on a wig, but you could take a regular brush or a round brush, whatever it is you're trying to do, and you basically go down the wig like this with the steam. You would not do this on your head, by the way. And that's really going to help if you've got some really difficult ends to treat. So generally I would say a hot air brush, a flat iron, a steamer, or you could use a hair dryer and a brush in lieu of a hot air brush. I just think this is a lot easier to use, and there's a lot lower heat, and for the average wig wearer, probably the better option. But if you're skilled and talented with hair and you can hold a hair dryer in one hand and a brush in the other and really effectively work on a wig, go for it. Maybe that's what you use instead of a hot air brush. That's your call. And then, oops, sorry, I just dropped something. And then water. Water is always my go-to. So in any of these products, except for steam, because steam is producing its own water in the air vapor, the vapor in the air, I would spray my wig just a little bit with water. Do not get it too wet, because that will take just far too long for the heat to actually work if the wig is soaking wet. So basically what I do is I squirt water on my hands, and then I just do this, and I run it through whatever part of the wig, because I tend to be, this is not a mister, this is a heavy duty water bottle. And so I tend to be very heavy-handed if I spray directly on the wig. If you have just a mister, you could mist your wig a little bit. So here, let me show you what I do with a hot air brush. So I get it a little bit wet, and then I turn it on high. This is not going to get hot. I have a whole video about hot air brushes out there, and I demonstrate how I know that a hot air brush is safe for a regular synthetic. I can hold it and have it on high for a very long time, and it does not burn my hand. That is how I know this is safe for regular synthetics. If you have a hot air brush and it's not all plastic and you can't do that, don't use that on regular synthetic. You can use it on heat-friendly synthetic. Let me grab the one that fell. I also have this hot tools. This gets much hotter than this one, a whole lot hotter. Now, the con to this one is it has some boars bristles in it, which can be hard on these fibers, again, causing friction. But if I have a long, especially a long wig, because this is so big, it's just a little bit too big actually to do this effectively, unless I'm just getting the very ends. I really like how hot this gets. It does the job a lot quicker and can really benefit a long wig. But again, I can't find one of these that gets nice and hot that doesn't have some sort of natural bristle, whereas this is all plastic. So use at your own discretion. I use this though on some of my heat-friendly wigs to help maintain them. But basically you just do this, and then you just run it through. It's a little damp. This is also a great way to tame flyaways. And because you can curl it, you don't have to curve it at the end, but because you can, you don't necessarily get the stick straight effect as you do with a flat iron. Now, if I have a wig that has really bad flyaways, I will spray it with a little bit of water and I will do this. So it's great for that. But that's basically it. And you just want to run the heat over it multiple times to make sure you're really getting the heat necessary to smooth out and soften up those ends. I heard someone once describe this as though you're somewhat melting the fibers, and then when they cool, you've sort of melted them and smoothed them out, and when they cool, that's why they're smoother. I don't know if that's exactly true or not, but that makes sense to me, so kind of think about it that way. So I don't have this flat iron plugged in, but if I were to do it with a flat iron and it would be hot, I would just go over it multiple times with the flat iron. And that should also work. I've done that on my Lady Latte and it worked really well, but it does create a much more of a really straight effect. So keep that in mind. That could be a drawback. Now, I'm going to show you some steam and I need to get set up for that. So let me show you how you would use steam on your wig. All right, I'm back and I have the wig on a wig head. I actually have the same style on my head, but it's a brand new one. This is a Raquel Welch Straight Up with a Twist. Same color, but it's in brand new condition. No heat has never been taken to it. So you can see how much smoother these ends look, and it feels like soft and silky, just like we love it right out of the box. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take steam to this one, and I'm gonna show you how to do that so that you can just kind of focus on getting those ends a little bit less frizzy. Now for steamers, I personally think you can use any clothing steamer. Don't spend a lot of money on this. You can spend a lot of money and get the Jon Renau steamer, which I did in the beginning of my wig wearing journey. I think those things are so expensive, far too expensive, especially if you're new and you're not sure how much you're ever going to steam. Oh my gosh. You guys, I gotta show you this. Sorry. Do you see that? Mama and baby. Oh my goodness. Sorry everyone, but this is a treat. Oh. Oh my goodness, that is so awesome. So I'm in my bedroom and I'm looking out my bedroom window. That's the natural light that's on me. I cannot believe that. Oh, that was thrilling for me. I hope it was thrilling for you as well. Anyway, let's get back to the matter at hand. I think that they charge way too much for this personally, but I don't know how much it costs them to do it. So there is that. But I will just tell you, or to make it and all of those things. So my opinion is uninformed. But I don't think you need to spend this much money unless you plan to do a lot of styling with your wigs. This nozzle is fantastic for very directed steam. So if all you're trying to do is maybe steam up like a little bit of the front and you don't want to get a lot of the fibers because this is going to get a bigger area, then maybe you want to get something like this. I do think that they probably sell some regular clothing steamers with some direction nozzles, so you can look into that. But I just want you to know you do not have to spend that money on that Jon Renau. Just whatever clothing steamer. This one is actually a little bit big. I had thought maybe I'd use it on clothes too, but I never have. So if you can find something even smaller, this is a Rowenta steamer. I will link it in the description just so you know which one I used, but you can always get something a little bit smaller. But what you're gonna do is you're just gonna direct some steam at this, and then you have a couple of options. A wide tooth comb doesn't work very good for this, so I don't really recommend it. You can use, I couldn't find my round brush right now. I think my daughter has it. So I'm just going to use this brush, but you could use a round brush so you can kind of keep just a little bit of bend in those ends. You can use a comb if you want to as well. So it depends on what you're trying to do, how long the wig is, what areas you're steaming, what the main problem you're trying to address. Is it basic maintenance or are you really trying to fix some damaged fibers? And then you're just going to take and you're going to run the steam kind of over it. You're not going to spend any tremendous amount of time, and then you're going to brush or comb through. Another thing you could do is if you have a round brush, you can run it down the wig with the brush like that. Do you see what I'm doing? So I'm sort of following my brush with the steam. I really like doing that with a round brush. This is a little bit harder to do that with, but let me demonstrate that again for you guys. Just like that, and then kind of brush it down. Now, I have this pinned into the wig head, so I'm actually, that's an extra T-pin that I'm getting caught on, but I just stuck some pins through the ear tabs. You never want to stick it through any of the lace. But basically, that's how you steam a wig. Whoops, wrong steamer. And if your ends are really struggling, you might want to go over them a couple of times. And then you just let it dry. And that really is all there is to it. Now, I don't have to do a lot of heat maintenance on this wig because of the length. It's not a super long wig, so it doesn't rub up on my clothing. So this isn't something I really have to do. I should actually take steam to it more often than I do, to be quite honest with you guys. Excuse me, I'm going to take a quick drink of water here. So the ends are a little bit more crispy than they would be if I just maintained it the way I've explained to you guys. Now briefly, I'm just going to mention, I will do another video on this, but you can also get some lift in the bangs with steam if you need, if they're hanging in your face and you want to create some lift. Steam is great for that. So if you're maintaining your ends and you want to add a little bit of lift to the wig at the same time, since you've got your steamer out, then what I would do is I would take a clip and I would sort of clip it up, and then I would just hit it here with a little bit of steam, being very careful not to hit any of the lace features. But that's another thing that you could do while you're maintaining your wig. So really, at the end of all of this, to summarize, if you want to wear heat-friendly wigs, do not be afraid. They do take a little bit more care and maintenance than regular synthetic, but it's very doable, especially if you're going to wear straight wigs, which is my recommendation for a new wig wearer especially. And if you are disciplined and you take heat to your wigs every few wears, you should be able to get away with just taking a little bit of a hot air brush to the ends every now and then. When you need to pull out the stronger heat, like a straightener or a steamer, is when it's really starting to get old and you're trying to stretch the life as long as possible. Or if it's a long wig, and let's say you wore it for a 12-hour day and it's really in bad shape on the ends, you might need to take some stronger heat to it than a hot air brush will manage. You will learn those things over time. So just start out slow. Don't be afraid. And honestly, remember the whole point of wig wearing is for you to enjoy the journey and for you to feel like yourself and look good. And if heat-friendly wigs won't achieve that for you right now, then don't feel bad about that and don't get any. But if you really want to try one, you now know you do need to take heat to it regularly, and you've got some tips and tools in your toolkit that you can try. I hope this helped you guys. I think I covered everything I came here to cover. As far as heat temperature goes, you're going to have to rely on the wig manufacturer to give you that information. Usually it's anywhere from 270 to 300. Occasionally I've seen wigs that can take up to 350. I try to keep the heat around 300 if I can. If it's not responding, I may up it a little bit. I will never go above 350. And if it's really not responding, then steam is probably the best bet if you if your wig needs a lot of help. Always make sure to comb through and detangle your wig before you take heat to it. Don't take heat to a super tangly wig thinking that's going to help you get rid of the tangles. It's just going to set in the crimping that those tangles are creating. So definitely take your time and make sure you detangle those wigs. All right, that's it. That's all I have notes on. I will put links in the description to everything I talked about today, except for the John Renault steamer. I think you can get it at some of the wig retailers. So if you really want to spend like the 90 bucks on this, then I'm pretty sure you can get it at name brand wigs and at Wig Studio One, and places like that. But I would, unless you really think you're going to use steam a lot, I would start with a $30 or even a $20 wig clothing steamer and see how that works for you. Let me know if you guys have questions. Please share your own personal experience, your tips, the things that you do, the products that you use. That helps everyone when you share your knowledge. I'm just one person and I can learn from you as well. So don't hesitate to share that knowledge in the comments. Thanks for watching, you guys. If you found this helpful, I have some ways that you can support me in the description box. Please take a look at that. This is a very time-consuming and sometimes expensive passion of mine, and I would love to keep helping you guys and bring you new content. So all the support that you guys give me, no matter how you give it to me, whether it's just in likes, comments, and subscribing, are fantastic, and I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I'll talk to you guys soon.